All right, y'all, before we start, because some of y'all be tripping, under the advice of counsel, I got to add that the views, thoughts, opinions that are expressed on this podcast are mine and mine alone. They do not represent my employer. All right, let's go.
Because I was like, damn, do we really want to get into this discussion? Because if we get into this discussion right here, y'all.
All right, y'all. So we are back with our second segment of our mental health in Black girls episode. We got Lady D, Miss T, and Chris. So we're gonna pick up the conversation where we left off last segment. Lady D, we were talking about. You said something during our little break about when we were saying how we like that girls acknowledge that they have a pain and how it's a mental pain, but how that could translate into a physical pain. Can you tell us what you were?
Yes, we were talking about my daughter in particular saying that she didn't know something didn't feel right inside of her and it made her heart hurt, and she said something in her spirit hurt, but she couldn't explain what it was. She didn't know what it was, but it made her in a mood that she couldn't find herself getting out of. And it's similar to anxiety. It's just the fear of the unknown. You don't really know what's going on. So when people are like, what's wrong with you? I don't know. Often people genuinely do not know what's wrong with them. And then also in the last segment, when you were talking about turning the corner to your workplace and realizing your chest is hurting and all of these things start hurting, it's literally the physical pain and the mental pain. They are very much united. People will like to discount mental health challenges, mental health disorders, because you can't see it, but you can actually feel it. And the mental can turn into physical, which can turn into trauma, can turn into really physical pain that can ultimately kill us. And when people say mental health is not real, I'm like, but it is though. If you have high blood pressure, if you have heart palpitations, if you're getting headaches, if you're feeling nauseous and you don't know why, it can absolutely be anxiety or depression or some sort of mental health challenge that is ultimately affecting your physical health.
That's a good point.
Man, I feel like I've had anxiety since high school, for sure. You know,
now that you're recognizing,
you know that I'm a ball of anxiety.
You are.
You know, like I am a ball of anxiety just because I am very much so a schedule person. I am a timely person, although like I'm literally surrounded by people who would be late to their own funeral. And like when things go off,
it throws you off.
It throws me off.
And
that's just who I am.
Yeah.
But I also try to like take a step back and realize my anxiety.
Yeah.
And having a spouse who doesn't understand anxiety has been a very much a learning lesson for me, and it's helped me in my professional life because I have to take a step back and realize that these kids are suffering from anxiety and they're having an anxiety attack, or they need a second.
Yeah.
And me teaching my husband that and what overstimulation is.
Yeah.
And it helps me realize that these kids be out here hurting and adults be like, be quiet.
Right.
And along the same lines, we as whether educators or parents, we will, a lot of us, myself included, we have anxiety. We might have depression. And then unknowingly, we are putting these feelings of anxiety on our kids.
We're projecting them onto our kids. Absolutely.
So if we're constantly, running around like worried about this, worried about that, then our children will ultimately start having anxiety as well.
Yeah. And they listen. They listen so much and they pay attention so much.
Yeah.
And I had to like find myself with that with my kids. Like I may be having a conversation or I may be having an outburst, but it's not really intended for y'all, but my kids will take that on.
Right.
And so I joke about my middle son, who's probably like a ball of anxiety like his mama, but needing some cleats. I took him to a Stephen F. Austin camp this summer, and like he's doing so great and he's like running through his drills, but I see that he keeps slipping on the turf. And so at the end of the camp, I'm like, dude, what's up? You good? He was like, oh yeah, it's my cleats. And I'm like, what do you mean it's my cleats? He was like, well, I needed some new cleats. I didn't want to tell you because I know you already been stressed out. And I'm like, what, you gonna break your damn ankle? Don't be worried about me.
Right.
But it's because you're listening to me talk about, the light bill, the mortgage, the taxes. You're listening to me. And so now you're starting to take that on in your little 16-year-old body where there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And so instead of, putting more on me, you're just like, I'm just gonna suffer through it because I don't want to put anything else on my mom. Yeah. And I'm like, no, baby, what stress me is if you break your ankle and I have to go to the emergency room with this crappy ass insurance that we have. That's gonna stress me. So, but that's a great point. We got some hot topics I want to get into, and I know it's this day that everybody has to leave and go be moms. So I just want to try to get through these topics. But I want to talk about peer pressure when it comes to our girls, especially our Black girls, and how we can strategies that we can use or give them to empower them to make more confident decisions. Like some of their decision making is terrible, and if we look back to us as teens and us as men, I made the most terrible decisions.
Like, you did what?
I did. I can't believe
How did I do that?
Right,
yeah.
But how powerful peer pressure is to them right now. I say that I was having a conversation with a male therapist, one of my coworkers, colleagues. He was on an episode a couple of weeks back, but we were talking about, the importance of just building your daughters up, right? You tell them they're beautiful, you tell them they're important, you tell them all these things, all this affirmation. And it takes one little shitty snot-nosed kid when they get to school to say one thing to them, and that destroys all the work that you've done with your kid for their entire lives. So I want us to talk about, especially because y'all are mental health professionals, getting parents to understand how important look, Lady D is like, shit. But how important these kids' friends are to them, and how their friends view them takes over anything we got to say. I'm gonna let you go. You itching.
I'm itching because if the peers cannot tear down our children so quickly if they were not already being torn down at home.
Oh, that's
many of our parents just bitch and hoe,
and they don't even realize it.
And it goes back to, well, that's how I was raised, and I'm fine.
I turned out okay.
I'm okay. No. And the way that our parents talk to our children is so dysfunctional that when they get into the world and they're looking for affirmation again from their peers, if they don't get it, then they internalize it even more.
And we see that if you have car rider duty in the morning, I think that is the worst.
Girl, get your ass out the car. I mean,
you close my goddamn door, and it's like, oh my God.
And that's what you're sending them to school.
And that's what you're sending them to school. And so, but when they get to that first period teacher's class, we are not even giving them an opportunity or acknowledging that, hey, this kid just got cussed out because he didn't take the trash out this morning. And I'm now, you haven't even healed from getting out the car to walking up the stairs, and now I'm bitching at you because you're walking in my
good morning.
Yeah, you didn't say good morning, meaning you walked through my door. Yeah. But I think we talk about that all the time. Parents, it's so important that you are sending your kids to school on a good note. And I have to remind myself of that too as a mom, and in the mornings, because the mornings are so busy for us getting, on the go. But making sure that my last words to you when you walk out the door are, I love you, have a great day, and not, don't take my goddamn trash out, or I'm sick of you leaving this dog all over the house. And
leave them with a positive.
Like, you have to live with a positive. Yeah. So if parents can understand that, and it's the car ride line where we see it the most, when they're getting out the car. You done cuss them out from the house to the school. Right. As they getting out the car, you're not even saying, I love you, have a great day. And then, like y'all said in the last segment, you're not even apologizing for going off. Because after you calm down, like I had to see that yesterday, because I was like, damn, this trash day. This guy told this goddamn boy to take this trash out. Now this damn shrimp from dinner last night is sitting in the trash can. And I have to say, you know what? It ain't that deep. It's not that deep. If I get home and the house stink, I'm going to be a little annoyed. But guess what? I'm going to take the trash out and we're going to spray and we're going to keep it moving. Yeah. But that's going to last. That's not going to last as long as the words that I said to him when he walked out the door.
That's what he's
going to remember. Right, he's going to remember that forever. And I think it's so important for us, like you said, as Black women, Black mothers, Black parents, that we start taking that into consideration, how we speak to our kids, like how powerful our words are. We talk about how powerful their peers' words are, but our words. And like you said, if I'm cussing you out and talking crazy to you, now here come this girl down the hall that's your cool friend, and she says, it's okay, Michelle, I'll be your friend. Michelle gonna clean to her. And then we got a whole other can of shit happening.
And if you have a relationship with someone and they're cursing you out too, to you, that's the norm. So now this is how I recognize
we getting into
this
that
is what a
one.
relationship is.
Yes,
This is how it's
we
supposed to
getting
be.
into
Well, this is
that
how
one.
my parents talk to me. So this is how my
So
parents
this is
talk
what
to each
it-
other. So
yeah.
this must be what
This is
relationship
what's
is.
normal.
Yeah.
This is what it's supposed to be like. That's awesome.
Yours
But
won't jack us up as much if our parents didn't
But
put in some good work.
when you have a kid who, has suicidal ideations, comes in our office, has suicidal ideations, you have to report, have to call the parent.
Right.
And the parent is like, oh, he's just saying that
Doing
because
that
he
for
got in
attention.
trouble. He's doing that because he didn't get his way. He's doing it for attention because, I've been on the road driving trucks or whatever. What do we do then? It's just like, your kid, I have to report it. Like, I
Right.
have to report it that your kid is coming in saying that they feel as if they don't want to be here anymore. And then that is your excuse. I had to do a CPS report at one point when it just became repetitive with this, and mom wasn't picking her up from school, and when we called, and it's just like, all right, well, this is neglect.
Yeah.
Like, it's a different type of neglect. It's an emotional neglect, and so it's things like that that's just like,
I think I didn't even realize.
there's emotional neglect.
Yeah, that's important for y'all to even be discussing that, because parents need to acknowledge that. I didn't even know that.
And the suicide rates. So I had to get on this because I saw this and it was alarming for me. This is from the CDC. Black youth have the fastest growing suicide rate compared to their peers of other racial and ethnic groups. Between 2007 and 2020, the suicide rate among Black youth ages 10 to 17 increased by 144%.
Jesus Christ.
144%. But
10
it's
to
just
17.
we're just doing
Say
this
the
for
years
attention.
again. You said 2007 to 2020.
Yes, this is 2007 and 2020. So we're not even
Pre-pandemic.
talking about
That's
post-pandemic.
Yeah.
Because it has an increase since
Yes.
Since then, that is so
But
sad.
they're just doing it for attention.
Yeah.
Or they're just doing it because they don't want to get,
Or
and
we
it's like
didn't
have to
acknowledge that hurt.
Yeah.
We didn't acknowledge that hurt because we couldn't see it.
because we're so hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
It's
Ooh.
hard to
Ooh.
acknowledge someone else's hurt if you're sitting over here.
Emotional
Right.
neglect is real.
It is.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to talk about this age of self-harm. Y'all, when I'm 41, I'll be 41 in October. It was not prevalent like that.
Right.
Even talking about suicide was not prevalent, but the act or the trying. But one thing I'm noticing now, we talked about this with the guys, the mental health therapists, the men that were on here, they have started seeing in their practices an influx of gentlemen that were coming in, cutting and self-harming. And I said, what? Like, that was odd to me. I know that I had started experiencing it as a Black teacher, seeing with my Black students.
Right.
And it's probably in the last couple of years. I know I've seen it, but when I crossed the tracks, I started seeing it, but I was seeing it in other kids. And then moving across the tracks a little bit more to the upper echelon of the Black side, I'm like, oh shit, wait a minute. Our kids doing this too? Yeah. And I have to acknowledge, I have to admit, moment of transparency here. I said, oh, they doing what these other girls doing because it's getting these other girls' attention, right? That's what I thought at first.
Yeah.
Until, sometimes shit gets real for you. And it's like, oh, wait, it's something deeper going on here.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about the addressing the self-harm, how it's the new normal for Black girls, signs that parents need to be looking for as far as our girls cutting and how they're trying to hide their cutting and how they're trying to pass off their cutting. So we'll talk about that, because
I think it's a double-edged sword. Everything that we do as school counselors, because we have such a big audience that we have to present to, is a double-edged sword for me, because I feel like when we have to go and talk about bullying to the kids, there's an uptick in bullying. When we talk about suicide and anxiety and things like that, it's an uptick in the reports of suicide. So it's like, we have to talk about it. They have to be educated, but then in the same sense, it's almost like
putting it
that
out
idea.
there?
Right.
Are we putting it
And
out there?
so I think when we were growing up, it wasn't
talked about.
It wasn't talked about, and it wasn't publicized. These kids, we have to do it. They watch Jenny and Georgia on Netflix, and she's burning herself, and it's just like, are we putting this
Giving
idea?
them ideas?
Are we giving them ideas? So again, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. They need to be educated about it, but it's like, it's almost like we're giving them the information, we're showing them different ways of self-harm, but we're not showing them like the what you can do instead.
What was that show? It was on Netflix, 13 Reasons Why. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
it's
Do you
like,
know
yes,
that I
it's-
read that book whenever I was in high school. That's how long 13 Reasons. I read 13 Reasons Why when
I
I
didn't
was
know
in high
that.
school. That's how old that book is. I remember.
But that's to
And
the
see
point,
that.
like, so self-harm, I started hearing about it maybe 15 years ago, and it was more in the Latino community when I was hearing about it like 15 years ago. And one thing I want to make clear, there's a difference between self-harm and suicidal
Absolutely.
ideation,
Right.
suicidal
Absolutely.
thoughts. And some people, we might know that at the
Yeah.
table,
Right, right.
but listeners may not realize there's a difference. When you're self-harming to release the pain, like I don't want to feel pain about the boy who broke up with me or that my parents don't want me, whatever the reason is, you just want to release the pain. So you might cut yourself or do something else that's intentionally harming yourself without the intent of killing yourself. You don't want to
Right.
die. You
Right.
just want
You just
whatever
wanna
this
release.
pain in your heart
Right.
is to stop. Then there's suicidal ideation where you're thinking about wanting to kill yourself, suicidal, having these suicidal thoughts. And then there's also the difference of when I have to do a suicidal assessment, I'm asking, do you actually want to kill yourself? Like you no longer
The
want to
risk.
be alive? Or do you just want this pain to stop? You just want not to have to deal with it anymore.
Right.
And there's a difference in that.
Yeah,
Some people
right.
just, I just want to drive into the sunset and I don't want to think about this anymore. Completely different from I don't want to wake up tomorrow or ever again.
right.
And some of
Totally
our
different.
babies, unfortunately, do not want to wake up tomorrow or ever again. So there is a clear difference there. And it's kind of like, when we were younger and your parents like, I don't want to talk to you about sex because if I talk to you about
Right,
sex,
you're
I'm
gonna
gonna
have
have
sex.
sex.
Open the door.
You're gonna
You
go
gonna
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
It's like, not really. If the kids want to have sex, they're going to have sex. If they want to harm themselves, they're going to harm themselves. You might give them alternative ideas for things that they may not have thought about doing it. But black men, too, they are, like you said, the black boys, the black
Yeah,
men, they're
yeah.
finding ways to harm themselves.
Yeah.
But I think it opens that Pandora's box. You can have a kid that's in pain, but have not.
But
done,
maybe
like-
they didn't have that idea.
But I'm in the auditorium talking about, if you feel like you need to self-harm, come and see me. And they're like, well, maybe I've never thought about self-harm.
Maybe I wanna
I'm
do it
feeling
now.
like this. Maybe,
And that's the
like she's
double-edged
telling me
sword.
she's telling me that people do it because they're in pain and to get into release, that feeling of pain. And I'm in pain. So let me see if
Let
this
me
works
see.
for me. So again, double-edged sword is just like, we have to talk about it, but how helpful
How do
is
we
it?
talk about it
And
without giving an idea?
An idea.
and
Yeah.
then talking about it, it wasn't talked about when we grew up, but there were people doing it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I don't know. It's mental health is just like this big cloud of questions.
Let me ask this. So when we're seeing, I know parents, some things that, and I see it, teenage girls, teaching them when they're cutting their wrist, all right? Little signs that we can look for. I've always been conflicted. I see the horizontal marks, right? I see them on your arm, but they really do look surface level. Like we
They're not
see
trying to
that,
kill
not-
themselves.
yeah.
right? Or they're not like I'm curious to cut, or I just want to put the
I just
mark on
wanna
there. So
see what this
it's
is.
almost like a cry. Like I want you to acknowledge that I'm doing this,
Yeah.
so you see it. But then you see the girls where it's like, no, you've deeply cut. Like you've cut to the point where blood has been released, and you cut to the point where you possibly need medical attention, or it's going to become an infection. And so now I'm not doing it here because now you can see it. So now I'm going to do it on the inside of my thigh, or I've seen the inside of their toes.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah. And guess who tells you that? The kids.
Well, because it's not often. I mean, we do get teachers who are like, "Hey, I saw a cut on her arm,"
Right.
la, da, da. But it's more of the kids doing it and putting it in a group chat with their friends and be like, "This is what I did."
Yeah.
And then one of the concerned kids in the group chat tells their parents, and their parents will do, go to admin or the counselor. So it's not really the teachers noticing because they're not.
Yeah. Or they in hoodies all the time. The kids wear hoodies.
I was gonna say
and
when they were in
wear
long
hoodies.
sleeve, it's like
Long
110
sleeve,
degrees
yeah.
outside. What we doing?
Yeah, they
that's
do that all the time.
a
So how
sign.
do you, as a parent and as an educator, know, okay, are you doing this for attention? I hate to say that. Or you don't chance it.
We might disagree. I don't know. Hopefully we don't. But disagreement's fine. I don't
It's okay.
But if you see any kind of indication, no matter how deep or shallow it is, they need help.
They need help.
They need help.
Okay.
And
that's
it's
my
not always cutting. I've had ones that had the rubber band and just keep popping the rubber band back and forth, back and forth. Back and
Just
forth.
as a release.
And then it goes away.
Yeah.
It doesn't leave a mark.
Wow.
So, and then, or wrapping a rubber band around your finger real tight.
So it turns purple and
Until it's
blue.
blue.
So
Wow.
it's things like that, pulling your hair,
Pulling your
Pulling
eyelashes.
eyelashes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's things like that. It's not always cutting or burning.
So you said something earlier in the last segment about, when you get home and you're going to lose your kids to their rooms, how important it is for us to make them stay downstairs or stay out of their room sometimes and just to communicate with us. Because I know if I'm not paying attention, long sleeves, I don't, we're all
You're not.
conditioned to now, we know, oh, this is something these dumb Gen Xers do. They just wear hoodies all the time. I'm not paying attention. You go upstairs, you go to your room when you close your door, you eat in your room, you do homework in your room. What are some things that parents need to be looking out for when we're talking about self-harm?
So I don't think we don't allow our kids to go to their rooms. We want to go to our rooms.
Yes.
So, of course, the kids want to go to their rooms. But if we make the community space in the house more comfortable where they would want to come because I am guilty of it too, and my kids will tell me. They'll come downstairs and I'm all excited. Oh, like, hey. And then I'll start telling them all of the chores they need to do.
Oh, my
And
God.
they like, I want to be around
Yeah.
Yes. Never mind, I'm going back upstairs.
Yes, and they'll say this,
Yes.
I'm going back upstairs, or I came down because I had a break, not because I had free time to do this.
Yeah.
So if we make the
Oh,
community
man.
space more welcoming for them, then they're more
Then they'll
inclined
wanna
to
come.
want to spend time with you.
Damn, you be on my mind because I did. Listen, this morning I woke up
Guilty of it
and I have a pet peeve about sleeping in the living room. Right, like this is not your bedroom. You have a whole bedroom. I paid a lot of money for you. Everybody had their own house, their own room. And so when my kids, like, I come out of my bedroom is downstairs, and I see your blanket, the dog, the this, the that in my living room. I lose it. I'm like, ah. And so this morning, Michelle just on the couch, just chilling, and I'm like, hey, wake up, bro. Like, this is, you too
We not doing
comfortable
this.
and messy down here. And she said, I just wanted to change. Like, I'm comfortable. And I was like, you know what? Shut up.
Let it ride.
Be quiet.
Let it
Just
ride.
Enjoy.
Just let
Go
it
back to
ride.
sleep. It's not that deep. Because like you said,
Because if they're in their room forever, what are they doing?
Yeah.
What's
And some
happening?
parents are like,
Yeah.
clean your room, clean your room.
Yeah.
Well, that's their comfortable place. If it's safe in
Ooh,
their room.
now you hit a nerve with me because clutter is an anxiety trigger
I
for me.
cannot.
It is.
But hey, I'm glad you brought it up. But is that a symptom? I learned that was a symptom
Of
of
what?
ADHD.
clutter.
For
People
sure.
can
Yeah,
be,
absolutely.
Wait, clutter or being
Clutter, just clutter, really clutter.
Yeah.
So when you are trying to do something Black parents need to understand too, right? To learning the constant clean your room. And why is my child so messy? Why is my child so messy? Because we've been conditioned that we're not allowed to have mental anxiety, mental disorders, and things like that. Not realizing that, hey, this is a symptom. You probably want to go get this looked into.
Well, it's a couple of things. Because I'll stay on my son, clean your room, clean your room, clean
Yeah.
your room. And he's like, why? You don't live in my room. Why does it bother you?
Right. Well, I don't want a little friend,
I don't
little
want no
critter.
extra creature.
But I don't let my
Yeah.
kids can't eat in their rooms, though. So.
See, I have that rule too, but guess what happens?
Yeah.
Guess what happens?
And I'm about to go on a tangent because then it's like, well, where are my forks?
Oh,
and my
God.
spoons?
Oh my God. I got a bunch of knives. I can't
you
find any of the forks and spoons, though. A bunch of knives.
But yeah,
that's-
that is definitely a sign of ADHD, and it also could be like, I don't know. It's kind of like you want them to have their space, and you want them to have their space in their way, but you also don't want to man. Is that wrong?
Is that us
I wanna-
controlling? Is that
Yeah,
controlling?
is that a
their
controlling?
And I'll own it. For me, it is.
That's
It's
beautiful
me
that
trying to
you own.
control, because my son, he calls me out on it because I try to control him in that area. But then when he goes and travels, I'm like, when you get a roommate, you're going to be all messy. And he's not. He said, I know how to, when I travel here with my roommate, and I was like, all right.
Oh, you just messing up my stuff.
Everyone's like, "Yeah, mess, okay.
But let's talk about that as depression too. When we talk about, we don't think. I think that's something bad that we as Black parents have, especially, I'm big, y'all probably have heard me talk often about, like, I'm big on Black privilege. I love having kids that are privileged. I love having kids that don't have to struggle. I love having kids that we're able to give them access to opportunities that we didn't have. And so we're huge on saying, you get Jordans every time they drop. You got an iPhone 20. You got your own room. You got your own bathroom. You got this. You got that. You got that. That they're not allowed to be depressed just because they have things that they have this life. That you got a car. You got this. You get to do this. That they're not allowed to be depressed.
That's
And
the parents in us, though. That's the parents. 'Cause my mama was like, you have this good life. Why are you acting like this? Why are you going out there acting, like you don't have no home training, or, just being ungrateful? And I'm like,
Ungrateful
well,
is the word.
That ungrateful. My mama wore that out.
Oh goodness.
Because you're right though, the material things don't.
It doesn't matter.
Those external factors are not it.
The insides, not
It's the
Right.
that's still that pain is still there.
We see that in
inside.
culture. These, you know, famous people have everything in the world, but
And they still are dealing with
depressed
depression and
anxious.
anxiety.
And
all
people
of
can't
that.
understand that.
Right.
And they're like, I don't understand.
They have
They
everything.
got all
They got all the
this.
money.
I got money. I
So,
wouldn't be,
right.
you know, but I think it's the same thing. So when we are trying to educate parents on signs and recognizing signs and symptoms in their daughters and even in their sons, that's something that we probably need to pay attention to as well. And then maybe sometimes in their minds, this is neat for them. And when we come in trying to clean and rearrange stuff, you'll see a whole nother part of them get set off because now you've moved. I had the earring back right there. Now I can't find the earring
Nah,
back.
ain't.
And then when my room was junky, I'm like, okay.
But that
got it.
goes back to what you said. It's a sign. It's control.
It's control.
You know, I want it to be clean my way.
Ooh.
You know,
And how much of it is really impacting their daily life. Are their
Mhm.
grades
Right.
still good? Are they
Right.
still respectful?
Right.
Are they
Yeah.
still mannerable?
Yeah.
Leave them kids
let him
alone.
be.
My mom raised us like that. She wasn't a stickler. Like, we couldn't be nasty, right, in the house.
Yeah.
But she wasn't a stickler about, you know, take your shoes off in the house, or your bed's not made up. My mom didn't care. My dad was like my military. Wake up, make up your bed. But my mom was like, I don't give a damn about that. I got other shit going on right now. Y'all not failing. Y'all not in jail. Y'all not in the office. I don't care about your room being messy or, you know, whatever. So that's something that I'm now trying to let go of. And really, honestly, y'all, I don't even go upstairs. If I gotta go upstairs, it's a problem because I'm fat and I'm lazy. So if I walk up the stairs, it's a problem. Like if I scream your name a million times to wake up, you didn't I hear the alarms going off, but you don't hear your alarm going off, and I gotta walk upstairs, I'm mad. But then if I open up that door, oh my God, I'm set off.
Yeah.
Now we often have a bad morning.
Right.
There was in this meme, the kid said, my parents are saying that I'm a bad child because I keep forks and bowls and water bottles, forks, bowls, and water bottles in my bedroom. But they got kids out here doing drugs and failing all the classes, baby mamas and daddies. But I'm a bad child because I keep all the dishes in my bedroom. So really, if we think about what's important and are they still living their lives in a way that is acceptable to us and to them, then
what battles are
Let it
dying
ride.
on. So I want to get into something because I know this is a huge issue. Let's talk about navigating the relationships. Y'all, these kids have the most intense relationships I have ever seen in my adult life. I ain't never been in love like they've been in love. And we laughed last segment about our little friend and how she loved you and you loved her. But baby, that little 8th grade relationship that they had going on, when I talk, I don't know if it was Bobby, Whitney, Ike, and Tina. I don't know what it was.
Terrible.
It was some true Jay-Z, Beyonce, ride or die.
Wow.
I always think about when I hear the "Who Wants That Perfect Love Story." Anyway, I think about them because they
8th grade.
8th grade, the most toxic couple. But baby, in
it
love.
was a trauma bond.
It was a trauma bond.
It was a trauma bond. So,
You had to take a breath.
Baby, that girl right there made us all go home and drink daily.
And Chris, will you explain trauma bonds for the people who don't know at home?
Yes.
Because everybody.
So when two people both come from broken homes and homes where they get yelled at, where they've seen toxic relationships, and then they get together and they bond over the lack of that they've seen and experienced, that's what those two were. And they were 8th grade. My girl, she would literally be screaming in my office to the point where our secretary texted me and she was like, do I need to call 911? And I'm like, no. So I was at a PD on the other side of town and I got called and be like, hey, baby girl is unconsolable. Like, you have to come. And I just grab a bag. Like, I just got there 5 minutes ago and I was like, grab a bag and I got to go because it was just that bad. And she had, the daddy issues, the mom who wanted to be her friend rather than her mom, seeing her mom in relationships that were toxic.
Okay.
And she thought that was it. That was the love that she was supposed to have. And she was one that you could take the horse to the water, but like, even if you tried to make it drink, it wasn't going to drink. Like, you could force that horse's mouth in the water and wasn't
Mouth
was
closed.
Y'all know they're all saying, my man, my man, my man.
Yeah.
That was her literal, like, my man been in class today, miss? What my man doing class today? I need to go see my man. Girl, if you don't shut up and get out my face. But they were so obsessed. I can't even say they were obsessed
was
with each
her.
other because it was her.
It was her.
He was so lackadaisical. He was so nonchalant about it. But then that's what would cause her,
That would set her off.
her set, because she's like, you acting like this here, but on the phone and at home,
right.
and
you're
I would
acting
see
a
it
different way.
through the text messages.
Yeah.
Like it was like in lunch, he would call her all kind of names and be mean to her, and then fifth period, you really about to break up with me behind that? Like I love you. It was like,
Oh, that's
and
toxic.
like it was.
I
She
got
didn't
you.
know what to do.
I
She
got
did
you.
not know what to do, and
Yeah.
so
8th grade.
and by May, and mind you, I've been dealing with her since
6th grade.
6th grade.
Yeah.
But it really got bad 8th grade. And by May, I just had to just let her talk. And just like I'm not getting ready to give you advice because I know you're not going to listen. I've told you everything that I can possibly tell you. I have said everything. So now all I can do is sit here and listen and tell you, I hear you.
But that day he broke. Well, I don't know. I can't remember what situation. I think he hugged somebody in the hallway or something.
Man.
When
And
I
that
say that broke her, that's the day she was in that training, and you can hear wailing, like on the floor, wailing. This girl, she just lost it, and nobody could console her. And I think when she made her way back, and I was like, let me go in here so I can give her some reprieve. Like, let me sit with her for a minute. And the girl was on the floor. Like, would not even get up to get in a chair. She was just
beating
on the floor,
like
banging her head. She was just
she had the long nails, and she would just just it was like I'm like, you are hurting yourself. Like, stop. Like, she would just be like doing this, but it was acrylic, so if you break an acrylic nail, that hurt.
Right.
So it was like painful. It was painful to watch. I would go home and be
drained.
like nothing. I would text them and be like, I have nothing.
You can't.
I have nothing.
And what would he be doing? Sitting there looking goofy. Like,
And then she would come back the next day and be like, oh yeah, we're good. I'm like, I know.
girl, you
not after all of that.
just traumatized me. And now it's like, nope, it's good until the next time. And it's a cycle, but it's
So
how
what
intense.
makes, because I'm listening to this,
Mm-hmm.
but what do you think makes them feel like this is where I need to stay? What is there an absence of?
I'm gonna say daddy issues.
Her dad,
Because you said the mom, and you said that, right?
right? The absence of the dad, and seeing the mom in toxic relationships.
So it was normalized.
It was
And-
normalized.
her.
And she
And
didn't
she
see
was-
anybody be loved correctly.
And mom struggled financially. Not a citizen, like she's not American. And brother out there that she also dealt with brother dealing and having to move out of their house because of things that he's done. And
So this was her norm.
like toxic is her norm.
Yeah.
But then there was
Chaos is
another
her norm.
sibling that the dad loved, but it wasn't her.
Or the older brother. So
that baby was different.
it's a bunch of stuff. So when I meet somebody who listens to me, who loves me, quotation, through my crazies, through my trauma, through my pain,
I gotta
everything,
stick
I have to
beside
stick
him.
beside him.
Yeah.
That's my man.
No, man,
I'm gonna
that's my-
stick beside him. That's how she was. But it just takes us back to she's just an example of one.
Right, because this story, I'm
Yeah.
like, I know this girl.
I think every middle
I've heard
school,
this
story.
story.
We've all had a
But-
girl or a couple
I was
like
gonna say,
this.
I had a lot of-
Yeah, and of course, and I'm sure when it gets to high school, it's even more elevated because, unfortunately, sometimes now you got children involved because now they have relationships or they have children, and so they really feel like they belong to that person. Like, you own me, I own you.
Yeah.
And it's so toxic. I have never, I'm 41, never have been in a toxic situation like some of these kids.
But
have
it goes
been.
back to grief. Like circling back, like grief is not always death.
Death, right.
It's the loss of something.
Loss of something.
So telling the kids, although we know that there are plenty of fish in the sea,
They don't recognize.
they don't
that.
recognize. They
Yeah.
don't recognize that
I
they're
want
in
that
just middle
fish.
school,
Right.
That they're in middle school, and they say that. I know I'm just in middle school, but I know what I want.
Yeah.
And so, what you can't tell them that you are going to there's so many out there for you.
God.
There's so many out there for you. But on the positive, I did go and visit her.
You did.
And they are not together. And
Okay.
we're just hoping that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
that day.
that
And
That
then
day,
at high
right.
school, what also happens is parents take their hands off by high school because they
Yes.
think they're
'Cause they
grown,
think
they,
they can
look
handle
grown,
it.
they can handle it on their
Yeah.
own. So then they find themselves with whoever
Yeah.
will listen.
And I think something else, I really didn't want to talk about this, but I think now I have to. When we tell kids like, oh, you shouldn't have sex until this time or this time, and they're starting to engage in sexual activity much, much sooner, than we
Right.
like. But we tell them that because we as women know that opens up another
That's a
whole
whole
dimension of
different-
feelings and emotions that you're going to have. And so I think a lot of these kids that are engaging in this behavior early and then we're seeing these toxic relationships is because they've done something that we've told them not to do at this point. And so they're trying to navigate those feelings and those emotions. And so maybe they haven't told us that. So maybe it's not as easy as saying, get over it, you'll be okay. Because
Or
in
you're
their
just in
mind,
middle school or high school, yeah.
like, no, I've already given this person something
Yeah.
very special. And so now I'm bonded to them. I'm connected to them
Ooh, that's
that
a
way.
whole. That's
Yeah.
an episode of its own.
Yeah, and so because they haven't told us that, and we don't think that our
Yeah.
kids are doing this.
Yeah.
And I laughed and joked because I said, back in the day, we were able to sneak people in the house and
Now with these
Life-
cameras,
man,
Life
these kids, they do
360.
anything. But what are we seeing an influx
I
of
was
as
in a
well?
whole nother city.
Them
My
having
mama
sex
thought
on
I was
campus.
on
Yeah.
campus,
On
in
campus,
the hallway,
in the hallway, in the locker room, in the
Yeah.
bathroom,
On the
behind the
playground.
building, on the
That's-
playground.
That comes with like what I said in the past episode about vaping. Like there's a time
Yeah.
you're going to be able to experience that, but not right
Not
now. You don't
right.
have to do it right now.
You're
Yeah.
not. Your mind is not even fully developed to be able to handle all of the emotions that come with it. And so when they're talking to me about their relationship problems, because they come,
'Cause they
are
do.
you the teacher? I could tell the T2 girl. What's the T? But sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I wish you wouldn't have said that to
Because
me.
now I got to go.
Now I
to a
gotta tell
counselor.
it, or we want to say so bad. First of all, girl, I'm toxic. I got my own issues. You probably don't want to be asking me for relationship advice, but I want to say, baby, even as a 40-something-year-old woman, you're not ready for the emotions that come
Right.
from sex with these men. It's something that what do they call it? They call it a not a trauma bond. Like when you're exchanging energy, like an exchange of energy. I can't
a
remember
tie,
a
a
soul
spiritual
tie.
soul tie.
Soul
That's it. I was like, it's a
tie.
tie.
It's
Tie.
something.
Yeah.
And so y'all, you're not ready because even as
Yeah.
grown women,
Yes.
sometimes like we're it's hard for us to control and our emotions when it comes to dealing with them, and we have to be very selective. I know
Yeah.
we're dating. Y'all are married, but we're in the world. We're out there.
She said we're in the
We out there. We in the streets. We in the streets. But even then, I have to be very selective, and so these babies don't understand that. And so when they're thinking, oh, you don't want me to live my life. You don't want me to do it. And it's like,
no,
girl, I'm
baby,
trying to
protect
save
you.
I'm
That's
trying to
it.
save you because you just don't know what's getting ready to happen.
But like you just said, these kids are coming to us. They're talking to you because we are a safe space for them. They're not able to go and talk to their mom and them about that.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Because you damn sure can't go tell your mama you
'Cause-
even
yeah.
thinking about having sex or you're having sexual feelings.
Well, mamas who are listening, why don't you make it
Make yourself
possible so your children do
Yes.
talk to you so that they don't go.
And it's
start
not to
talking
say
or
that
just
you're
do
not
it.
going to have your emotions as you're listening to
Yeah.
them. You're going to have them. Hold it.
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself time to decompress, but allow yourself to be that safe space so that they can talk to you, so that you can give them the guidance that they need and not
Yeah.
be so ready to snap on them when they like, okay, well, yeah, I am having sex before,
Right.
marriage or before you told me that it was okay to do it. Like,
Yeah.
just listen.
Because talk about double-edged swords. We remember what we were doing when we were that age.
Right.
And so
Right.
we don't want them to have any parts of that.
Right. No.
At the same time, why do we think that they are going to listen to us when we didn't listen to our own?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Right.
We gotta
But
be
did our
realistic about
parents
this.
make it safe? Did our parents make it open, and as close as my mom and I are, I probably felt too ashamed to even tell her that. So it wasn't that she didn't make it safe or she didn't give me an opportunity to come sit and talk
You
to
didn't
her.
want to let her down.
I didn't want to let her down. I felt ashamed and embarrassed. My mom didn't find out I was having sex until I got pregnant at 18 years old. And my mom was like, wait, sex, you? And then she was like, did he force you? I'm like, no, actually, I kind of forced it. Because I'm a whole woman out here in these streets and you didn't even know. But I think that's giving me, again, these tools that I'm learning to parent. One thing I've always taught my kids when they were little is if you tell me, and I'm honest about that, if you tell me the truth, I ain't gonna beat your ass.
Right.
If I gotta find out
If I
another
gotta
kind of way, we'll have some problems. And so I think now as they're in their teenage years, and even my son as an adult, he overshares. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm your mama. Like, I know people think
But
we're
that's
siblings.
a good thing.
Yeah, I know people think we're siblings, but I'm your mama, you know. And he overshares, and even like all my kids, like my 16-year-old is texting me right now, telling my mama, guess what, baby, I am busy. Like, but I love that they're open with me because it's the same. And I'm big on accountability and responsibility.
Right.
So I teach that to them too. If you own your shit, you're not gonna be in trouble.
Then you good.
But
Right.
if you're giving me excuses or you're blaming somebody else and you're not owning your shit, we're gonna have a problem. That's like a rule in my house. Number one, own your shit.
Yeah.
And so I think when parents give a safe space for their kids to mess up.
Yes.
Like you gotta like allow them to mess up. And coming to me and telling me that you messed up gives me shit. I may have to fix it. But thank you for telling me so we can learn how to navigate it. So I think that's important. But really when we're talking about Black girls and them being able to come to their moms, they hate coming to us. Like if you just see Black women as a whole, I watch on social media how much these women, they have these toxic relationships with their daughters. Or they say, oh, women love their sons and raise their daughters. Like we're so hard on our daughters in comparison to our sons, and our daughters see that. I was joking yesterday, look, I'll just be going off on a tangent. I had a set of twins in my classroom, girl, boy twin. And the girl is always on top of her work. She always does her work. The boy twin's like, nah. So I said, her work is always stellar. I said, so let me tell you what my kids do when they need something from each other. Y'all have to barter. So, sister, he needs to get his work done because this is a major grade, blah, blah, blah. Your work is immaculate. So what does he need to do from you? She said, well, we can exchange chores. I said, perfect. That's what my kids do. If it's your week to wash dishes and you need me to do something, you do this for me and I'll wash dishes for you this week. And so I said, okay, well, tell me what chores do you have and what chores do you have? And let me try to help y'all negotiate a barter, right? I'm just joking.
Look at you. Yeah.
Just joking, right? And so she says, well, I mop, I do the dishes, I do this, I do that. And then she said, like, all the woman stuff. And I was like, what? But then I had to be quiet because I was like, oh, this may be cultural. Like, let me be quiet. I'm listening. And then I said, well, what do you do? And he said, I take out the trash. And I said, and what else?
Yeah.
Right.
I said, you cut the yard? He said, nah, we pay somebody to cut the yard.
Okay.
I said, well, what else do you do? And he said, no, that's it. I take out the trash. I said, oh, hell no. I said, do you know how to wash dishes? He said, yeah, sometimes with the women in my family, like, they don't let men wash dishes. And I said, oh, baby, you would learn today if you want your project done. You would learn how to wash these dishes today. But then it made me think about my two and what I designate as chores for men or in chores for the
But you probably
daughter.
did it subconsciously. You didn't even think about it.
Wasn't even thinking about it.
You weren't thinking.
And taking out the trash, like I was always taught by my dad, like women don't touch trash. And so my dad never let us take out trash. Never, ever, ever. And in my house now, my daughter doesn't touch trash. And not thinking like, ain't nothing wrong with your ass taking that trash out to the dumpster. Like it's okay. And then but my son, I don't want you washing dishes. And but here's my thing with him. It's not that I don't want you washing dishes because I don't think that men should wash dishes. You half-ass wash dishes.
He does it on purpose.
He
so
does it
he
on
doesn't have to do
So
it.
that you don't have to.
No, let me tell you. He does it on purpose because
he knows
his sister's going to come behind him and do it the right way.
He be
playing
I
with it.
grew up with only sisters.
Okay.
There was no brother to do
The man.
quote, unquote.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have the concept of what was a boy's job.
I gotcha.
Gender roles went out the window. My mother used to cut the grass. My dad cooked dinner.
Okay.
So we
just survived. Everybody
Everybody-
teamwork.
right.
do.
Right.
So in my house, I have a boy and a girl, and we absolutely do not do gender roles.
That's how we are as well.
My daughter will grab the trash just as quickly as my son will wash dishes, and vice versa.
That's good. That's good. And I know, I realized now, well, probably a couple of months ago, maybe a year, like, oh, his ass playing us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my older son, because, we brother and sister, really, he's just, that boy playing with y'all. He does
He
that.
called it out.
Yeah, he always does it. He like, nah, I'm making him do it. Because he's like, he be playing with y'all. But with his big brother, my son, my 21, be like, nah, get your ass. You
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah.
whatever I tell you to do. Like, if I say, hey, the air vents need to be changed, I'll tell my oldest son. He said, you got another son over there. He needs to. He'll say, "Hey, boy, come here. Like, let's go." Because we're so used to babying him and like, oh, he's not gonna do it right. Let's just do it
Let's
right
do
ourselves.
it, yeah.
And he be sitting there on the game like, shit, yeah, don't ask me.
And see, I'm recognizing that with my youngest because he'll play. Well, I don't know what to do. And then what ends up happening, either I end up coming back to go do it or big sister does it. And I'm like, wait a minute now.
You playing.
You
know what
you know what's
manipulating.
up. Yeah,
You
I
playing
don't
the
know
game.
what to do. No.
So I noticed that, and even her, I was laughing because I told my mom, well, my oldest son, I did not want him to go off to school. I was like, no, you got to stay in Houston. You got to go to U of H because I just want you to be so close to me and whatever. And then with this one right here, this middle one, baby,
You
I'm
ready?
online. I'm looking, and he's the person that probably he's going to have to go to like a JUCO first because he just, but I said, you got to go. You got to go. I don't care if it's Blinn, Navarro, you got to go somewhere. And he like, why I got to go? And I said, because you have got to learn how to navigate this world without your mama and your sister. This boy just learned how to make rice like months ago. He just learned how to scramble the egg because guess what? His sister does it all for him. Mm-hmm. And even the other morning, he scrambled the egg. And I said, the egg, you got about a fourth of the egg because the rest of it is at the bottom of the skillet burnt. But you made
it. He tried, and he did it.
And now, and I have to tell her, don't you get your ass up and do it. Because she was like, why you so stupid? You did it. I said, he doing it. Don't you get your ass up. You sit down. Let him eat that burnt egg. He'll be all right. But it's a game. It's a manipulation. Is. But let's get into the last thing I wanted to talk about. And
wait, one quick point
please,
before you
go
go.
ahead, go
because
ahead. Something
else that I did that was come from learning. That's an expression that me and my kids say. That's all right, baby. That come from learning. So something that I had to learn.
I like that.
When you say make a safe space. If they're honest up front, you're not mad. But if I find out on my own, okay. So, I found out something on my own, and I went over we call it black mama. I went way black mama on my child. Then I had to reel it back in because I realized what the child did was not abnormal for a teenager.
Okay.
I overreacted because my feelings were hurt by what happened because I knew the direction that things could have gone. So I had to reel it back in and also recognize what I did was shaming him and embarrassing him so he would not come talk to me if anything like this happened again. Dang. Fix it, mama. All right, let me. I totally had to go back and apologize. And we took some time off of school and work just so we could talk. And I sincerely apologized for the way that I responded. The behavior, not okay.
Right.
We are not going to condone that behavior. But the way that I responded to it was not okay.
That's good.
Okay.
So let's talk about my behavior first. I'll own it. Then we can talk about what you did, why you did it, why you felt it was okay, why you were hiding. Just explore all of that afterwards. But we got to acknowledge, is it really, really a safe space, or is it only a safe space if it looks like what we want it to look like?
Right. That's,
Hey.
Okay.
That's good.
I'm just learning something. Okay, check this. Check that. Get it together.
Get a book, a little journal.
Because at the end of the day, I want to be the person, the safest space you got. Not to say that I don't want you talking to anybody else, but I always want you to feel like
you can come to your
mama. I can come to my mama.
Right.
My mama's gonna have my back. Right, wrong, indifferent. My mama gonna have my back.
And that's and I know we got to jump to another topic, but I think that's one thing I will credit my mom for, because I would always be like, okay, mom, look, it might not be what you want to hear, but I'm going to always tell you. And she would provide me that space to tell her. So it's like, I skipped school today.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to get a consequence for it.
Right.
But I know she wasn't going to just go off on me to where I felt like I could talk to her.
Right.
And that's one thing I'm doing with my daughter. It's like, you might not want to talk verbally. You might want to text it to me.
Yeah.
You might want to write. So we started a journal.
Yeah.
And the journal, like, sometimes she might not want to talk immediately, but she might write it down and then I read it. And then that gives me time to where I'm not like, oh, I want to cuss her out right now. Yeah. But I'm not going to do that because I could just write her back. And then we do the text message. Oh, my God. And that's helped. That's definitely.
I think my daughter was taught journaling, and I'm finding that I'll find the journal somewhere where I frequent. So I have a home office because I work at home a lot. Yeah. And so when it's something that I know she wants to share, but I don't know, the pink journal will appear. It's a pink journal with the letter M on it.
I love it.
And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. I got to prepare myself. What's in this journal? And so I open the journal, and it'll be a page that says mom. And it'll be a page that says dad. So I'm like, okay, that's not for me. That's a conversation she needs to have. But this is me. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh.
Okay.
Oh, damn. Okay.
But it gives you time.
It does.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, it's not even negative things. It's like, hey, you know what? Yesterday, when we were talking about this, you did this or you said this. And I know you didn't mean it, but this is how it made me feel. And so even if it's a day or two after she probably journals it immediately, but let me show it to my mom a day or two later.
So that you can be aware.
Maybe that'll soften her response.
Yeah.
And sometimes she does not always want a response. Sometimes I just want you to know what I'm feeling. And so I'm learning. And sometimes, at first, I was like, this help for being manipulative. Here we go. Why she leaving? She know, because I get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And so in my office, I got a Mac. So the journal is right there on the keyboard.
Oh, she wants you to see
It's intentional. It's intentional as hell. The journal is on my keyboard where I got to put my finger to open up the computer. So I'm like, okay, all right. Now I know if I see the little pink journal with the M, even if it's on my bed, even if it's on my counter,
I need to open it.
I need to open the journal. And so I think that's
But that's also still, that's a safe space.
That's a safe space. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just for her to express herself.
Yeah. And then my 16-year-old, he comes in. I could be, he don't have no damn boundaries. I could be in the bathroom.
On the toilet.
And he just come in and he just walks around. Hey, sit down. What's up? Like, I already know it's something, but, they all express in different ways. And even though sometimes I may not be at a space where I'm ready to receive mentally or whatever, but I'm so grateful, especially being a teacher, seeing what other people are dealing with their kids at this age. Like you said, it could be so much worse. Right. But I'm so glad that y'all are like, I'm finna go talk to my mama. So
something I appreciate also about Gen Z, shout out to parents, the students or clients that I have, they are so quick to support their parent. They will say, okay, my mom might do this, they might do that, but they're doing the best they can. But I don't want to say anything bad about my parents. They are so quick.
That's refreshing.
And I will say, you have not said anything bad. You're just stating facts. So don't feel like you have.
Right.
They're always like, well, I don't want to say anything bad about my mom. I don't want to say anything bad about my parents. So
That's
they're very respectful of their parents.
That's refreshing. Because what do we always think? They're so ungrateful. They don't acknowledge. They don't understand the sacrifice. And I had this situation happen with a student parent friend that I have. That's the worst when you teach your friends' kids. I hate that because it puts you in the most awkward situation. But the mom had made countless sacrifices for something she wanted the baby to do. And finally they become of age. And when you are able to control your kids for so long, and then when they come into their own and start having their own voice, again, we receive it as disrespect, right? But you immediately went on to talk about, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. And then finally, boy said, I never wanted to do that. You made me do that. So how can I appreciate something that you forced me to do? So you spent $1 million on this camp and this clinic. I never wanted to play this sport at all. And here's where we're having an issue. And I'm like, damn.
And a lot of parents don't want to hear this. But it's like you've kind of made it more about you than, the child's interest and whatnot. But
that happens so often. So often. The parents want the kids to live out their life.
Right.
I want you to be a classic pianist. I want you to learn 3 languages. I want you.
You're going to play this sport, do that because I did.
Yeah.
But what if they don't want
That's
to?
not what they want to do.
Yeah. We had that, the kid, like, I want you to be the running back. I was a star running back. Kid, man, I want to draw anime and play an instrument.
Right.
I don't give a damn about this, but you're forcing me to do it. And then when I'm having an emotion on early Saturday morning because I got to get up and go train.
That I don't want to do.
I don't want to do it. Now we got to fight. Right. We don't understand. So that's good. So last thing I want to get into, since we're talking about relationships with teenagers, I want to get into the importance of fatherhood and how dynamic that role is of fatherhood when it comes to navigating these relationships. I'm good friends with I don't know if I could say this. Well, I don't think she would mind. Dr. Clorinda did her dissertation on the importance of Black fathers in their daughters' lives, right? So reading through the dissertation, there's so many amazing points. And so we talk often about just how men don't realize how important and impactful their presence is, especially when it's time for their daughters to go and navigate relationships of their own. And I know our engineer over here, we talked about that before because he got 3 daughters, 2 daughters, and how they were just so super spoiled and so super entitled. And I'm like, that's great. I love it. Let continue to be that way because that's the standard. And I think it's so important for men to set that standard and be present and available because if not, we see they're more prone to falling into these toxic situations. And I am one. I tell people all the time, my father passed exactly 2 years ago, but was a daddy's girl to the end and still is right now from the sky. And how that's probably why I am the way I am, because I'm like, baby, there's nothing in this world you can tell me or impress me with that I ain't already seen, and that daddy ain't provided for me. So you're going to have to work extra hard. And I ain't telling you got to be him, but I'm just telling you, I ain't got to put up with your shit.
Right.
I don't have to deal. And so I always, every time I have men friends that have daughters, I'm like, spoil them, do this, do that. Don't make them feel like they have to do anything to degrade themselves for a man, like anything.
And I just want to add, and don't back away in those teenage years.
Please.
Sometimes I've noticed where it's like the dad will fall back. It's like, okay, well, your mama deal with this. No, that's when she needs you the most.
The most.
Yeah.
When I first started counseling in the high schools, Facebook was big. And I said all the time, if fathers would do their job and there was no Facebook, I would not have a job. My issues that I dealt with most frequently were because daddies were not present. And Facebook, because of the mess and drama, just social media in general. But yes, the daddies they are very much so needed consistently, even if you are not living in the same home as the mother. I can say my ex-husband and I, we have a great co-parenting relationship, and it's very important that I don't know what my children would be like if he wasn't involved in their lives consistently. So they need consistency. Not
consistency,
don't
absolutely.
just send a gift don't just
because that's not being present.
No, they need physical, emotional, mental support by their father or father figure.
Yeah,
everyone does not have the luxury of having
it's true.
a biological father, so a father figure.
Right, but it's so important, and I think I'll never forget. I had a kid that we had a writing assignment last year, and again, that's what she was. Miss Chris was saying about watching what the prompts that you put on your board for kids to write about. But I cannot remember what the prompt I had was, but I had a kid that wrote, and she talked about how she was a side baby. I hate to use that phrase, but her dad was married with kids. And then got with her mom, had an affair, got with her mom.
She's referring to herself as a side
right?
baby.
Because now, I think, and if I'm not mistaken, this baby and the husband's kids, they were pregnant at the same time. The moms were pregnant at the same time.
Okay.
And so, whatever situation with the husband and the wife, if you want to stay with me, you want to keep your family, then you need to leave that child alone, blah, blah, blah. But this child and her mother are also seeing your kids live the life that she doesn't get to live, right? And she's just like, why do I have to beg, for you to come to this or come to that? Why do I always have to see you on, everybody else's stuff, but you can't come to my stuff? What did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. And that these men don't realize it. And I had another friend that had a situation like that, and I would like get on him like, dog, you sorry. Like, I don't care. Wife, husband, I don't give a damn. That baby, you messed up.
Right.
Her mama messed up maybe because she knew y'all were married. It doesn't matter. That baby didn't have anything to do with that. And y'all shouldn't be punishing that baby because it's more important for you to keep your family together, for the church, for the fraternity, the sorority,
or whatever.
The image. We got to keep that together. But this baby got to suffer. Because
of something they didn't even got no
ask
part
for.
in it. Right.
But now this girl is now she's going on to high school.
Okay.
How is she going to navigate relationships
in her self-worth?
world?
If her biological dad is choosing not to be in her life, then
what does that communicate to her?
Yeah. And then it'll be like, oh well, your mama. No,
we're not doing
this.
This
is you.
Yeah.
This is you. And I always say when men start that, the mama, go to court. That's my favorite phrase. I'm gonna shut you up real quick. Go to court. The court system works both ways. I know y'all don't want to think that. Y'all always think that the system is against you.
Right.
But the court, it works both ways.
Men wrote those laws.
Thank you. And if you really adamant about it, go get it. And if your wife is truly understanding and understands the importance of you being present for your children, point blank period,
all of your children,
then she understands that. And so if you're with somebody that is allowing you to not raise a child that you created, you need to
reevaluate
your
situation. Yes.
So I think we have to hone in on the importance of fathers. Like, y'all so important when it comes to these girls.
And as difficult as it may be for the mother who's there every day, day in and day out, the child may lash out at you because you're there.
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
intentional, it's not personal, but you know, you hurt the ones who are the closest to you.
Yeah.
So they might challenge you because you're there consistently.
Yeah.
Because they're really mad that their father's not
Yeah.
there.
And I could say this about my child. I remember it was something she wrote. And it was like, you don't understand. You'll never understand how I feel because you were raised with your dad. I only get to see my dad once a month or on FaceTime. And I was like, damn, I never, and that's selfish of me that I never even thought about it. Like, she's absolutely right. I never had to worry about whose weekend it was, and I got to pack a bag to go spend this time with this parent, or, okay, do I spend Christmas here or Thanksgiving here? Or and there is just so much in that I never had to think about, because hell, when I wake up on Christmas, my daddy and my mama going to be there. When I wake up on Thanksgiving, my mama and my daddy going to be there. But she's like, well, if I don't spend Christmas with you, you're going to be alone, because now it's my time to spend Christmas. It's the year to spend Christmas with dad, but now I'm worried about you. But then I don't want to hurt my dad's feeling. It's like, that shouldn't even be on these babies.
Yeah, right. They have complexities that we might not have even experienced.
They do. And this is something I did not realize or think about until I got divorced. And the whole splitting time and their stuff. Y'all know, as educators, at the last minute, the teachers or the teachers will say something. Bring this book tomorrow. Right. Bring this instrument tomorrow. Or bring this uniform. Or we're canceling practice. What if it's at the other parent's house? And now you got this parent fussing at me because didn't we just leave your house? You know, the kids do not ask for that. And we really, as educators, I don't think we don't take into consideration all the complexities that go into bring something tomorrow at the last minute. Or we don't have practice today, so get your parents to come pick you up. We don't live like that. My parents are at work. Now you're fussing at me.
Yep. And I think, so when we go back to talking about something we mentioned earlier about how the counselors, y'all are privy to a lot of information that the classroom teachers are not privy to, right? So I may not necessarily know that this baby, their parents have a 50-50 custody agreement. And now, as a person that's gone through divorce and custody agreements, not realizing that people set their shit up so, like, everybody's situation is different with how they set it up, right? So this one kid had a literal 50-50 agreement. Like, Sunday through Wednesday, you're here. Thursday through the next Sunday, you're here. And so when you're talking, like you said, homework, whatever. So and maybe I had
your
to
stuff at your daddy's house.
Yep.
And then you're supposed to bring it back.
My situation was like that. It was crazy until COVID. And we did not realize until COVID how crazy our situation. We were Sunday to Tuesday, they were with me. Wednesday to Thursday, they were with their dad, and then every other weekend it would alternate. So our poor kids, they navigated very well, stayed straight A students, God bless us all. But it was crazy.
Yeah.
To
like
expect
you said,
them in
as
elementary and middle school to do
teachers,
that. No,
we don't know that. And even now that you're saying that, I'm thinking like, damn, when we were in divorce court and drawing up all these agreements and denying and we were thinking about being angry at each other or trying to resolve our adult issues. We weren't even thinking about how those issues could impact the kids. And thank God, like, now my kids are teenagers now, and they're able to say, nah, Dad, I'm not coming down this summer because I got football camp to go to, or no, I play AAU, I'm not going to spend, 3 weeks in the country this year, but you can come down, here go my schedule, and you can come, or I could just talk to you on FaceTime, and it's cool, or when you can come catch a game, because my ex-husband lives out of town, so you just come catch it when you catch it. But before he moved out of town, just navigating that, well, this is my weekend, well, it's not 601, like, crazy.
In hindsight, it's like, what were we thinking?
What the hell were we thinking? But when teachers are not privy to knowing a lot of the things that those kids are going through, we'll lash out for not bringing homework in or whatever, and not even understanding, like, damn, you really
don't know what's going on.
You got a desk here, a desk there. It's crazy. So just being mindful and keeping those things in mind when we're dealing with.
Back to the point of grace. Give
everybody needs grace, because you don't know everybody's situation.
Adults and kids, we all need a bit of grace.
So before we close it up, since y'all are the professionals, like, what are some resources? Do y'all know any resources? I think, and we talked about this with the men, one of the difficulties in acknowledging or trying to help our babies with their mental health is the lack of resources, or the lack of being able to afford the resources. So are there any type of resources that you guys know that parents can reach out and get some help, or even if they have suspicions that their daughters may be dealing with some anxiety or depression, but they may not have a job. They may not have the insurance, or their insurance may not cover it. Everybody isn't fortunate. So what are some resources or avenues that those parents can use in order to get their babies some assistance?
I'm going to give a few before turning it over to Steve. So first, with grief in particular, in the Houston area, is a great place called Bo's Place, BOS Bo's Place is free or very, very low cost, and it is especially for families who have the children have died, or the parents have died, or the siblings have died. It's for grief in general, but especially for the nuclear family. It's amazing. They do group work, and they can come into the schools. So if there are educators or school counselors out there listening, get in touch with Bo's Place in Houston to see if they can come and do groups with your school. They're amazing. And if you're not in Houston listening, see if there's an organization like that, especially for grief. Also, therapyforblackgirls.com has
that was one of the ones. That was my first one.
Love Therapy for Black Girls.
Yes.
.com, and they have a list of providers for therapists, not just for Black girls. So there are Black men out there listening as well. Therapy for Black Girls, and there's a therapyforblackmen.com. And finally, if you have thoughts of suicide, if you have thoughts of depression that will not go away, and you are concerned for yourself and you don't know who to talk to, thankfully 988 is now a phone number that you can call, like 911, but not 911. It's 988. You can call for immediate help for suicidal thoughts.
Well, you got some good ones right there. I was going to say, I'm just going to add on a couple. The Loveland Foundation, they actually provide financial support for therapy for Black women and girls. I know that oftentimes that's kind of a barrier, the financial support. And so that's the Loveland Foundation. And then there's also Black Girls Smile. They provide in-person as well as virtual programming. Oh, wow. Yeah, so that's Black Girls Smiles Incorporated. And then also, and I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's going to be offensive, but we need to kind of talk about it in the places where they are. Like, go into the churches.
Yeah.
You know, like, and talk about it. Pastors, bring these things.
I know I'm
doing it. Yes.
Not a whole nother
like,
episode.
pastors, these are things that need to be.
Pray it away. What are you talking about?
You know, like, we need to talk about these things in our churches. So meeting people where they are. So, yeah.
I'm glad you said that real fast.
We about to do another episode.
People have been talking about, you're too sensitive, whether male or female.
Yeah.
Women are always so sensitive, or stop being so sensitive like a woman. Jesus was sensitive, y'all.
Come on.
Jesus wept.
And that's scripture.
Yes, I was reading these devotionals this week about how Jesus would get angry and Jesus would get sad. So Jesus
And
was
guess what?
emotional
Those are
too.
emotions.
Yeah, so it is absolutely okay if we have emotions. It's okay if we are not smiling.
Right.
And if our heart hurts or our spirit hurts, it's okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully you feel comfortable enough to let someone know that.
I'm trying to be quiet. So
No, don't.
No, because then
Start all over.
We're going to start all over. We're going to have to say this for another one, because I'm like, I'm going to go get into the Black church and then talk about how
please.
older ideologies and how,
Let me tell you, one of the things that I'm focusing on, or one of the things that I want to go into further research, is the intersectionality between spirituality, religiosity, and mental health. And why these things are not being addressed as much as they should be. Let me not say they're not, because there are some pastors who are addressing. But for the most part, they're not being addressed in the Black church. But is that another episode?
That's a whole nother
Wait till my son gets home, because he's in college now.
Is that what
He is. So it started with like the intersection of the Black Lives Matter movement and the Black church, relating it to the civil rights era of the Black church in the civil rights era.
Gotcha.
And now because he's gotten more into mental health studies, he's incorporating mental health.
Yeah, we need to connect.
I like
Yes,
that.
I love it.
I
love it.
Okay. Well, ladies, I thank y'all so much. I'm trying to wrap this up, because I think we could sit here for another 2 hours just talking. So wrap this up. But thank y'all so much. I know, again, I've been trying to get y'all all together for a long time. So I'm so grateful that
Thank you for
y'all
having us.
came together today to help me out. So this is going to be a good episode. People were asking, when I did the mental health episode for the Black boys with
And
the
that
Black
one was
male
great.
therapists, they were like, what about the girls? And I'm like, I know the perfect people, and I just got to get them in here at the same time. So I appreciate y'all so very much.
Thank you.
Y'all got to come back. I feel like we're going to get some questions and some responses from this, so we're going to have to go back into some
Especially
more conversations.
listen, call me when you talk about that Black church.
Oh, y'all know I don't do all that. So I have to be like, I have to walk on eggshells with that. With people
And
that
here, I was gonna say him, pastor's daughter, but the conversation needs to be
it
had.
needs to be had.
Yes,
to be
so
had.
clients who the church is really turning them off because of how church is
Listen.
talking about mental health.
Yeah.
These are people who are
And
really
these are people,
in the church.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. See,
Right.
we about to start.
Okay,
we're
we're doing it.
We're going to stop. All right. Well, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Ridgemont4's Finest, the podcast. We will see you next week. This podcast was made possible by producer extraordinaire D. Francis at the legendary Lab 7 Studios in Mo City, Texas.